It looks like we are. Well, good morning, everyone. I am so excited to be moderating this panel. This is a real treat. And I honestly laughed out loud as soon as I heard who the panelists were when Matthew reached out to me and said, here's the people. And do you think you can moderate this panel? And I said, yeah, I know all three of these people almost too well. And between the three firms, we share a few hundred clients. So I've been so looking forward to this because it is really, really, really going to be fun. So the purpose of this panel is to discuss the state of business management. Although we decided to take matters into our own hands and not go so deep into talking about how COVID is impacting your business right this minute, because I'm sure you guys are over it. We are over it. So we're going to discuss the future of business management, and it will discuss as part of that how COVID is going to impact things going forward. So with that, I would love to introduce my panelists and friends, starting with Miss Sally Velasquez. So Sally is a combination of a tax attorney and business manager. She's the founder of Iconic LA and co-founder of Icon Business Management. Sally represents actors, producers, directors, musicians, and international DJs in the entertainment industry and is known for her expertise in tax and entity structuring. It's not written in her bio, but she has an amazing command of her very challenging clients and deals with the most challenging situations that you could ever imagine. She has over 12 years of experience in tax and accounting and business management, providing concierge services while overseeing the bookkeeping, accounting, financial reporting, and all that for her clients' affairs. She received a bachelor's degree at Northeastern University and a JD degree from DePaul University. She was admitted on the state of Illinois since 2010 and is a member of the American Bar Association and the Junior League of Los Angeles. Welcome, Sally.
Hi.
So next up is Rachel Martinez. As a business manager, she provides her clients with daily monitoring of their assets and spending. Her clients include actors, writers, directors, producers, and online influencers, which are a really special kind of group of people. And we discussed that we could have our own panel discussion on that. She acts as her client's personal CFO and trusted advisor. I should mention that her COO, Jay Barr, is someone who I wish would run for president someday because he's like the greatest guy on earth. They offer a broad range of specialized services to their clients, including oversight of their legal affairs, insurance issues, real estate acquisitions, and construction. They also offer a vast array of personalized concierge services. Last but definitely not least is Greg Getzinger. He's a partner in business management at Gursey Schneider. He brings 10 years of accounting experience to service his diverse clients' business and personal needs. He became a partner there recently. I think it was January, surviving the financial affairs of high net worth individuals, clients ranging from musicians, actors, writers, directors, to the executives who manage the talent. You didn't mention it here, but you also work with a fair number of divorcees, which is an interesting area to specialize in. So they offer accounting and business consulting to individuals, corporations, partnerships, and estates and trust, with an emphasis on the various tax issues that affect these entities. He holds a bachelor's degree of science and business management degree in accounting from Xavier University. He's a member of the Cal Society of CPAs and the American Institute of Public Accountants. I guess I should mention myself as well for those that don't know me. My name is Anthony Davenport. I am the CEO of Regal Credit Management. We're a funky little niche business catering to high net worth and high profile individuals. We help people build credit. So for those emerging entertainers that are just getting started, they just had a #1 hit song and now they need credit built up quickly so they can go on tour. We do that. We repair their credit if they get late payments and collections, which I'm sure none of the rapper and ball player clients ever have a need for, right? The biggest service we do is we lock down credit. That's what we're really known for. We put a block on someone's credit, so even if a thief knows their name, their address, their social, their date of birth, mother's maiden name, whatever, they're not going to be able to do anything with that credit. So, and our latest service is that we remove personal information from the web, which we're going to get into in one of our questions about how criminals, thieves, and stalkers now can get access to information so quickly and easily. It is insane. So with that, would love to move on to our first question. So the first question is, what are some of the permanent changes that you feel are going to occur from COVID in terms of the industry itself?
Who wants to start?
I can start. I think one of the things that we've all learned in all of this is that what we considered a conservative way of doing financial planning for our clients maybe never conceptualized a COVID type world where people could be out of work for very extended periods of time. And the way that we planned the safety net for our clients was, maybe a year's worth of reserves or possibly less, possibly more. But this has permanently, I think, shifted what makes our clients and ourselves feel comfortable with reserves and with savings. And it has made, I think it's shifted all of our clients, at least in my experience, towards a more conservative viewpoint on both spending and on savings and investing. People feel that they need a lot more behind them to feel safe. And I think as a business manager, I also feel like they need more behind them to feel safe, to weather something, unlikely something like COVID again, but anything like this. And since it was unprecedented, I know for myself, I'll be planning for my clients to have bigger, safer cash reserves than we conceptualized before this.
Yeah, I agree. I think another issue that definitely has changed is the way we work with our teams and the way we're now working in general virtually. I know we've been mentioning that a lot of firms, they initially thought that you couldn't work virtually with your teams, but now we have all this new technology that we're incorporating into our business that's actually allowing us to work virtually, not only with our teams, but also with all the people we work with, the lawyers, the managers, the agents. And I think that one of the greatest things that's come from COVID, there's not many, is the fact that, I recently had a virtual Zoom meeting where I had, a manager, a lawyer, myself, the agent, the whole label, and then the client on this big Zoom call. And the client was so happy to see all his team in one place. And it was just like something that would never have happened had, COVID not happened, because, everybody lives in different areas and it's just so hard to get all these people together in one place. And I feel like that's something that was probably a benefit moving forward, because it just really eliminates a lot of miscommunication and everybody gets on the same on board with what we're doing for the clients. So I think that that's something that's great that's come from COVID, is just the way we communicate.
I'll piggyback off of both those ideas that you guys have there, and that one of the things that's been refreshing for me is really getting our entire firm. We're a group of 200 to 250 professional staff, and there was a lot of skepticism as to whether or not we could all work from home. And I didn't see it happening for us for 5 or 6 years, and I thought that was frustrating, and that we were going to get behind the times, and we weren't going to be able to compete for things like staff that want to have that flexibility and work in other places and things like that. And I just think that this is really, everyone's eyes are now wide open to the possibilities of this, and it doesn't seem like it's such a detriment anymore, and it's more of an opportunity.
Yeah, we've definitely even seen that at our own firm, as we've hired some new individuals in the midst of all of this. And now people are saying, hey, maybe I want to work from home for good. And we really had to lean on our security and our IT to make sure that could happen in a safe and responsible way. Now, this year is so crazy that COVID is not the only thing that is going on. There is also, a presidential election that's just around the corner that has people thinking differently. There's also some matters like BLM have you seen any sort of impact or thinking to your clients in terms of like the BLM movement?
I definitely have. I have had conversations with clients that made me realize that there were certain areas in the professional world where I didn't have the resources to be able to provide my clients with a Black professional in certain sectors. I had clients that said, I'd like to get an estate planning attorney, and my preference is that it's a person of color. Or the same thing with financial advisors. And I think that what it ended up doing is it put me on a little bit of a quest to expand my contacts and to meet people that I hadn't worked with before, so that when my clients tell me that they have a preference to work with a person of color in various ways, that I had those people that I could introduce them to. And I also had clients who specifically wanted to move assets to Black-owned banks, and had to build relationships there that I hadn't had before, and that I didn't even realize were really lacking in the way that we worked with people. So it highlighted that and just expanded my network.
I think for my company, I'm a minority. I'm Puerto Rican, and a lot of my clients are minorities. I have, musicians, R&B, rappers, and actors and actresses. And for me, it was always something that kind of was on our mind to incorporate. So, I will say this to everybody out there listening: there are so many really, really smart and, if you want, aggressive and just very intelligent, just very good at what they do. There's a lot of lawyers that I know in Atlanta that are amazing. I don't know if I could put them on blast or not, but there's I have a really good network of people, and I feel like a lot of them are in Atlanta, and that's where a lot of my clients are. But they're great. I think for me personally, when I was hiring this, I was actually hiring during COVID, and that's a whole nother issue I think we're going to probably get into later. But that was something that I think I even spoke to Anthony about, that's on my mind, is that I want to hire minorities because my clients are minorities, and I feel like there's a lot of great talent out there. We just need to make sure we're looking for it. And so that's something that I know I really am passionate about, especially when the Black Lives Matter happened in June and the protests started. My company was very big and vocal on Instagram and social media to make sure that we were, fighting for justice. This is not new. This is something that's been there for a long time. And I feel like it's something that we're going to have to continue to fight for.
Yeah, and I've noticed it on my end too, where usually, you guys handle the communication with your clients, but I started getting calls from people saying, hey, my client, before they enroll with you, wants to do a Zoom session with you, not a phone call, but a Zoom session. And I was like, okay, what's that about? And then I found out it's because those people said they want to work with more Black businesses. So they wanted to make sure that I was in fact Black. I was like, wow, it's going to be an advantage to be a Black guy for a change in finance. So I'll take it. And then, a lot of wealth advisors reach out to me because they know I work with a lot of business management firms. But Noah Francis, who is a Black professional at JPM Morgan Chase, reached out and said, hey, if you have anyone, here's something that might be of interest. And they created a fund that specifically invests in primarily Black-owned businesses. And I thought, business managers are going to want to hear from yet another wealth advisor. Forget it. I sent a note out to just a couple people, and they were like, oh my God, yeah, my clients have been looking for something exactly like this from a reputable institution. So it's definitely changed some things, and it might be going forward. Greg, I'd love to hear what you have to say on that too.
Yeah, I've just been encouraged by our clients. Living in Los Angeles, we work with a progressive bunch, and I feel like people have a pulse on these issues. And it's just been nice, also at the staff front, and watching what people want to get involved in and what they feel like is important. And it's opened up conversations in a way that that maybe weren't possible before, just because of that there wasn't this forum for it. And so, like, as part of going through this, we raise money, every year, and the firm chooses a different charities that we want to donate to. And this year we left it up to the staff to decide where we wanted to donate money to. And they were given, a list of options, and, the participation was really nice, and just sort of enlightening. I share the struggles. We've talked about this, in developing a pipeline for, Black and, all different races of, for CPAs. We've talked about the disadvantages and how there's not enough people in the pipeline and all that, and how we can get over the excuses and continue to develop those things regardless of what the numbers we're up against. Just to Sally's point, that people are out there, and we just need to, I think a lot of it is education and teaching people that these opportunities exist, and going back to schools and talking to, the heads of departments and things like that, just to let people know that this is out here. Because for me personally, going through my accounting program, it was big four or nothing. And I know I'm not alone in feeling that way. And that's not just me, that's everybody. So I want to spread the good word about what we're doing here for everyone, because I think it's just a really interesting career path.
Yeah. I mean, can I just say, like, literally working with a lot of young Black successful men, I feel like, and this is something that I don't know if other business managers have to deal with, but my clients get stopped by the cops just because they're young Black successful men driving a nice car. And, there's no reason they're getting stopped. And, I'm usually their first call. I had to deal with, a client who's very wealthy, and nobody would lease a house to him for, he just wanted to, like, stay in South Carolina or North Carolina for, I think, like a 3-month lease or something, and no one would lease it. And finally the realtor just told me, oh, well, they don't know why. They think he's going to do drugs and parties. And it's just like those type of things. It's not just about hiring, but it's just really hard to deal with just this racism in America. And so it's kind of like, that's something that for me is one of my passions, to try to help my clients get through it. Cause it's like, I don't know what to tell them sometimes when it's like, they don't want to lease to you because they think you're going to, do this. And it's sad. That's all. It's really sad. So.
It really is, but it's going to continue to be on the minds of individuals. They're going to start, moving their money to institutions that are going to have their interest at heart. They're going to want to work with professionals that maybe look like them, or have people that look like them. And I know of a particular program many, many years ago that went into areas like South Central LA, and they wanted to provide opportunities in accounting for kind of at-risk youth. And now 2 people from that program are partners at major business management firms. So, there needs to be more things like that. And I feel that there's going to be going forward. So moving on to our next question. Business managers are notoriously on call for their clients 24/7, especially you, Sally, because you get those calls in the middle of the night. But now, how have the client needs changed when presumably you can't be in the same room with them like you could before?
Well, I could start. Okay, so I will say that when COVID initially hit, I was a little worried because I wanted to make sure that I was able to speak to my clients about managing their money, financial reports, and tax returns the same way I did before, which was knocking on their door and making them talk to me. But now I thought, like, this is going to be so difficult to tell these, 20-year-olds, talk to them about taxes, and actually figured out that wasn't that. It wasn't that difficult, like now I feel like I talk to my clients so much more, which I don't know if it's a good thing or not, but they're always like FaceTiming me, and we're always talking about different things. Like if they're trying to buy things or whatever, because they're bored right now and they're not on tour. It's kind of opened up a lot more communication in a way for us, because before it was more like, let's schedule this meeting and you're going to sit down and I need your attention. And now it's just, I'm just going to FaceTime you right now because I have a quick question here and there, and we text more. So I don't know, I guess in a way it's been beneficial because I do feel a little bit closer to them. And, it kind of took away that like block of, standardized meetings, I guess.
I agree.
And by the way, I will say I'm not on call 24/7. Emergencies, okay? They know you're in jail, you're bleeding, you go to the hospital, or you're stranded somewhere because you lost your credit cards. Then you can call me or my team. But I don't answer for when they're just asking to like buy Tesla stock or something like that. They still text though.
Yeah, they do. They reach out 24/7. I know we've had conversations about that.
I agree. I think it has. We did always have more of a formalized kind of meeting procedure that, a lot of times would get canceled, and it was always a little bit more of a struggle to get the information to our clients. I also have a lot of young clients, and we send everything secure, so we know when they actually open the reports that we send, and it was pretty infrequent. And so those meetings were our time to actually open the reports for them and show them the numbers and talk about them. But something about COVID has made people a little bit, a little more insecure. So before they go and do something financial, they stop and they think. And so I'm getting so many more calls and texts of, wait a second, can I afford this? Before, when I might have been hearing while they're doing the transaction, or, when they've already tried to make a decision and I'm trying to backpedal. So I think that it's because there is a little bit more financial uncertainty in the world right now. I think that has made our clients lean on us more for preemptive advice, which is great. It's what we told them all along is let's have that conversation first. And with that has come like a sense of urgency from the clients where, they would put off that financial meeting, that quarterly check-in. It wasn't that big of a deal, but now I feel like they have a little bit of a sense of urgency and they want to know, like, how am I doing? Like, if things stayed like this, how long can I go? Like, kind of big picture financial questions that I wanted them to always care about. And now they do much more, which is great. And there is a very informal line of communication. They always texted when they needed things. They always did. But now there's a little bit more engagement in the big picture because they want to feel more secure on the financial side.
Right. Rachel, do you think that that's going to continue like post-COVID? Yeah.
I do, at least for a while. I think that certainly there's still a ton of insecure, but beyond COVID, you mentioned the election and potential tax changes coming with the new administration. Clients have a lot of questions about those kind of things, and none of us have a crystal ball, but the fact that they're thinking about it, I think is an important part of the dynamic.
Right. They're definitely seeing how things like elections can change their fortunes, perhaps.
Right.
All right. So now moving on, how do you manage your teams while physically separated? Rachel, I'd love to start with you.
Sure.
Because you know that my fondness for Jay Barr and how amazing he is. I think you have a lot to say on how a firm your size is sort of, managing things while you're physically separated.
Yeah, I think that everybody knows that, or at least most people in our sphere know that for a firm of our size, we have a somewhat unique structure in that we have a COO and we have an operations department, and that department is tasked with kind of a high level oversight of what you just mentioned, of how we manage our teams, how we build our teams, the way that we interact with one another, providing people with the resources and the tools that they need to facilitate great communication, and then really being, in a way, the first liaison between the team leaders and the executive, the partners and our teams. So Jay really is our, as the COO, he's the one that builds the structure there, and he builds the infrastructure of the teams, and it's with with it's a lot of premeditation in the sense that that he can take a top line view and build things that make sense in in a firm wide way, but also at the team level too. And it's allowed us to leverage technology and to really have less. It gives us the time to be able to be much more focused on client matters and less on personal management, because our operations team does the heavy lifting on that side.
Yeah, I'd like to speak to that, because Rachel, that's a huge luxury that you have there. Because one of the things I've noticed in managing people remotely is that you have to spend that much more time on organization and developing plans, whereas before you could kind of just fly by the seat of your pants in the office and just take meetings as they came, put fires out as they came up. But we don't have that luxury anymore. So it's a lot more just identifying your would-be managers and empowering them to help you. And I think that's really been a great piece of this, is finding out who the strong team players are and who the good workers are, who's comfortable in what situations. And yeah, for you to have that chief operating officer going through something like this, I mean, that's a real luxurious hire that you have there. And I've got my eye on that. I've already talked to my other partner about it, and we're going to figure out how to get one for ourselves.
Yeah, because that's something that we just pre-panel discussions was like, do you think that there's going to be more J-bars out there, or are more firms going to hire a COO that just says, how do we maintain our culture? How do we stay connected? How are we touching base with people? Someone who's assigned to be the virtual hugger and kisser, essentially. And to give even more insight to your firm, Savco has the nicest office in business management. I've been to like more than 60 of your guys' offices across the industry. It's stunning. They have desks that raise and lower automatically, with the push of a button. They've got a meditation area. They got a ping pong table. So they really put culture first, and that may need to happen a bit more. But on the other end of that is a firm like Sally's, who is smaller. They don't have 60 years in business like Savco. She's growing at a fierce pace. But how are you managing your team now?
It's so crazy. Me and Rachel were talking, and we actually use the same technology to manage the team. I definitely don't have a COO to handle that because my team is a lot smaller. But for us, we had implemented Microsoft 365, and I feel like it was this year they switched from Skype to Teams, to the actual technology called Teams. And it was such a perfect transition, especially when COVID hit, because now in Teams, I can do an accounting team, and I could check in with them, and we can have video chats and share our screens. I could have my tax team, and then just my general business management team, and then the whole firm. And so we're all on chat all day. We're, video chatting each other if we need to. We have these days where we just put ourselves, I bought everybody a monitor, like a second monitor or third monitor, and to put in their house. And then just on that monitor, like one day a week, we kind of put all of us on there, and there'll be the day like all of us are doing things. Some people's kids are going crazy, and we just kind of are hearing each other. And so we can just kind of ask each other out loud a question. And sometimes we don't, but it's like the way that we kind of stay connected. And that's been really helpful. And I know that Rachel's team also uses Teams in probably a much broader scale. And it's so good to have this type of technology. Now, it does have its limits. You can't actually have a video chat or chats with your clients. And that's what Zoom kind of came in and was perfect for that little area. But for me, I feel like managing, a lot of the technology I use with my company is everything is is online, and our clients have access to all their information online. And so, I mean, my biggest problem, it wasn't really COVID and people working virtually. It was more now that a lot of people are doing virtually, I'm a little scared about cyber attacks. So, I increased my cyber insurance, and now I'm just managing, trying to do two token verifications and things like that, just to make sure that now that everybody is online, we're really trying to keep our clients' information secure.
Yeah, and at our little firm, we just grew to 16 people. I found that my role as CEO is very different. I used to just say, this is what our agenda is for the week and for the month, and overall for the year, and I need to make sure that you're doing what you're supposed to do to make that happen. But now I also have the role of kind of psychologist, because people have been stuck at home without, especially if they live by themselves, they're really going, oh my God, I'm going crazy. And I found that I have to increase the number of one-on-one touches with them, even down to the intern level, to say like, hey, how are you? Like, I understand you're a young person of color. You're upset about the BLM movement. You want to leave work early to protest. I'm going to let you do that. Some asked to, participate in BLM type activities. And that was a matter of, I need to understand that. For the first time ever, we took off Juneteenth as a day off for the staff, because that's something that they wanted. So yeah, those changes, we'll see if they last, but for now it's like an extra thing on our plates to have to touch base with our team one-on-one, see how they're doing, see how they're feeling, and help them with that. So moving on, how have you guys felt that the hiring process has been like during COVID, and what new strategies have you had to implement?
Greg's got some new people starting now, right? Yeah.
We all at the same time. I have 2 new people starting next week, and this kind of goes back to the last point in making sure that everyone's on the same page. Whereas before you could bring people in and you knew that you had a whole team of people around them to help them bring them along. We switched from data faction to AgileInc, which is the new data faction essentially. But there's a learning curve with learning any new software. So again, it's identifying people that really want to help and want to train people and bring them along. So where it's forced us, in another kind of pull forward effect, I've laid out wanting to have training manuals for new hires and things like that. And I kept putting it off and putting it off and putting it off. Well, the day is here. I now need a training manual because there's nobody there. There's no direction for the hires that are starting on Monday. So now over the last couple weeks or so, I've developed basically a game plan for, 2 hours of, webinars, and then you have an hour to talk with a dedicated staff member about what you learned, and then, another 2-hour webinar, and then thinking really hard about the clients that are best for them to learn on. So it's really just been an act of organization, and I've appreciated the pull forward and making myself good work these manuals for people.
Yeah, and Greg, if I can ask a follow-up question, like what are you using for that kind of training materials? Like what is, do you have something online, or?
I mean, it's a lot of it's self-created. I've got another, as much as I love to have a COO, I love our IT director. Shout out to Rob Garcia. And him and I have worked together on, basically teaching me how to create these things by myself, and doing screen recording things and how to edit it and cut out, the bad parts, and basically make the videos myself. And we all know the traditional business management model is sink or swim. Get in there, sit in your seat, and figure it out until you until you have it figured out. So that model really doesn't work in this environment. So I've had to create the like custom training videos.
Yeah, and one of the things that we've done is we've implemented you're right. I do think that whole sink or swim mentality, you basically dig in, you look at prior year, you look at work papers, we assess our employees a lot during that time period because we see how well they can figure stuff out on their own. But you're right, it totally doesn't work in this environment. And so one of the things that we've implemented is basically like a 2-week like shadowing period. So we're utilizing those same tools that we use to stay in touch with people, like Teams and how we keep Teams open, but we're utilizing the screen share functions, and we're utilizing just that ability to work, well, to shadow someone and to watch someone work so that the person is not on their own to start off with. So anybody who's been added during this time period is spending 2 weeks basically, and we're investing those 2 weeks of time to have them basically sit with someone virtually all day, every day, and watch the work and see how to see the flow, and hopefully that's a better transition for them than kind of having them sink or swim by themselves in their house.
I feel like for me, I hired one person this year and I'm trying to hire another, but I'm super particular. And I feel like for me, my biggest concern, like my biggest hardship when you're hiring is trying to maintain your office culture, especially when you're working virtually. For me, our office culture is pretty much a kind of laid back, no blame culture, positive reinforcement, pretty much only. And I like people that are just positive attitudes and just want to get things done. And so normally, you hire somebody and you kind of get their vibe when you're working with them. It's not just about work, but it's also how they work with the team. Mm-hmm. So for me, that's like my biggest hardship when I'm hiring right now, though, is just making sure that whoever I do hire, besides them having the skills, they're also going to fit in with our, office vibe. I don't know. How do you guys manage keeping your culture alive when everything's virtual now?
I think we're having to go out of our way to make some of the communication not virtual, and not meaning that we are getting together. Not meaning that we're getting together in person, but that we've realized that even with Teams and with email, having things be in a text or in an email doesn't always give the right tone. And so we have really implemented more, hey, pick up the phone, and when we actually make those calls in Teams also, but it's really about having actual conversations with people and having video chats with people, so that just exactly what you said, it's like an email or a text that could come across as critical or could come across as, could make a person not feel like they're being positively reinforced or not being supported. That same exact conversation by telephone or in a video chat comes across a whole different way. So whereas I think we might have, when we're all in the same office, it's like you can have an email exchange that might not be the friendliest, but then you run into each other on the way to the bathroom and everything's cool and nobody's mad and it's all good. But in this, when everybody's really on their own, those kind of interpersonal conflicts can escalate because all you've got, if all you have is email. So I think it's just been reinforcing from the managers on down, just how important it is to, on a pretty regular basis, get on the phone and talk to people, because that's the only way that the tone really comes across accurately.
Yeah, in our firm, we've hired, this week will be our 4th and 5th hires since COVID began. And as you three know in particular, I'm very anal retentive and I'm all about systems and processes and everything must be followed like this. And I found that we were incredibly well positioned for this because everything that we do is written down and there's an exact way to do it and who does it and how they're supposed to do it. And I feel that everyone should start to move towards that, because you never know when there's going to be another pandemic, or it's just a best practice to have those resources written out. And early into the pandemic, we shifted where we stored all that information to make it a bit more user friendly. So we moved to Google Sites. So that it's basically like a website that's built just for your organization. So we keep our non-sensitive, processes and data there. And, originally our first version of it that we created 8 years ago, we hired a technical writer to build it out. You don't have to go that deep, but it is a really good idea to have somewhere that people can say, this is what we do, how we do it. And even training schedules are listed there along with the roles of each person that's going to walk them through it. So moving on, as I alluded to in the beginning, privacy is virtually gone now. You can get access to someone's cell phone numbers, someone's cell phone carriers, email addresses, contact information for their relatives. We've identified over 220 websites that collect data and sell it on people for as little as $15, complete with aerial photos of properties, appraised values, mortgages that they have on them, if they have any traffic violations, speeding tickets. I mean, the list goes on and on and on and on and on, with extensive reports. So how is that beginning to impact what you're seeing with your clients since this data is so easy to get and it's everywhere?
Anthony, can I just ask you, can they help me with all the spam that I'm getting on my phone? I mean, literally I get about 10 calls a day. So if your firm can do that, so I don't have to hear this phone ring so much, I need to talk to you.
Can't do that. Can't do that, Sally.
I think, we've talked about that. We all know that it's a problem. We are the ones that get the calls from our clients when they have a group of kids outside of their house, or when things like weird gifts start showing up at their parents' house. And that information, I think we all know, comes from those websites like Spokeo and all those weird ones that you showed me. And sure, the clients are super uncomfortable with that and it's dangerous. But it also, what I've seen from my clients is that it can affect their business. And that's because with that information readily available online, I've had more than one client who had their cell phone compromised and cloned, and that person was able to take over control of their social media accounts. And that wouldn't be such a big deal for most people, but my clients, their social media accounts is their business. And if they have a posting deadline or a brand deal that has deliverables on a certain day, and they don't have control of their Instagram, like that can be a very material impact to their business. So having that information locked down to the best that we possibly can, so that we can just reduce the likelihood that some kid just breaks in and steals their Instagram. Being able to do that is, I think, critical to providing the services for our clients that they expect, because it's both safety and a business concern.
Yeah, and I think it's important to note that these background reports are legal to be sold. This is not a dark web sort of thing. And the reason why it's especially important to point out that these reports will say what your cell phone carrier is for the exact reason you just mentioned, Rachel. If I know your phone number and I know what carrier you're with, I could show up to a Verizon store or whatever store you do something with, or call them up and say, hey, I got a new phone. I need you to port this over. And that's exactly what they found happened with Joe Biden a few weeks ago, Elon Musk. They picked on a whole bunch of celebrities. They took over their Twitter accounts and started posting. That's how they're doing it. These are not like, crazy Russian, North Korean hackers. Yeah. It was probably some 15-year-old who was just like, look at what I can do. And also, I don't know if anyone here deals with Bitcoin, but there's been a rash of Bitcoin theft for the exact same reason. It's untraceable money. I don't know how Bitcoin works. That's a whole other panel discussion about what it is and how it works. But if someone takes over your phone, they now have access to your Bitcoin accounts. And they've been draining people that are very high profile in that space. And as a result, often we've had to create new services when people just start asking us again and again, and if we can do something. And we had to create a service to help people remove this information from the web a little over a year ago, because we kept getting these calls of my clients are getting calls on their cell phone. Now their assistants getting calls on it. They're breaking into their homes because they can now easily see where they live. They can see that they have guard towers in the front, but not in the back. So, Sally, you've got some clients that are very high profile that are also private. What sort of things have you been seeing?
I see some crazy shit. Excuse my language. I don't know if
we expect
honestly,
that out of you.
I'm going to tell you guys a story, liven it up. It's 9:54. Honestly, I had a client who, I guess they had some type of stalker, and the stalker figured out where my client lived, even though the house was in an LLC. There was nothing that traced my client to this house, no bills, nothing. I don't know how they figured it out, but they called the real estate agent, and they asked the real estate agent they told the real estate agent they were an architect student and that they really thought this house was super architecturally nice, and they wanted to get the plans for the house so they could figure out a way into the house, probably to see my client. So now, honestly, the real estate agent was smart enough not to give it out, but that put us on notice that there was this guy just trying to reach one of my clients, and I just thought that fans are crazy, and that really scares me for my client's safety. Credit wise, I think that's virtual security is like I mentioned, one of the most scariest things to me right now too, is because of everything Rachel said. I have clients that also have social media endorsement deals, and it would really affect their business if they got locked out of their email, their Instagram, or anything. And then TikTok, I don't want to get into that, but TikTok was a whole issue with Trump almost banning it. And I do have TikTok clients. And so for us, it's like all this security. I know my clients did not want China probably to keep all their information, but at the same time, that's also how they're making money. So I would say it's been a year of a lot of security issues for my clients. And I left you with hopefully an interesting story. Make sure you tell your realtors never to give out the plans to the house to anybody. That's something I've learned to make sure to put when you hire them.
Yeah, it is key, because sometimes the real estate agents are the ones that are leaking information of guess who's moving in here. Mm-hmm. And, I got a call maybe about a month ago from a business manager saying, my client is a notorious pothead, and they're moving into this house. It's not even done being built yet, but someone from Canada mailed them a bong and some Canadian weed and was like, here, enjoy this, try it. It's my product. And they're thinking the only way they could have known that is the real estate agent, because the place wasn't even built yet. So that is a key point.
Get everybody to sign an NDA and hope you don't actually have to try to enforce it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And hire Anthony's company to lock down the security.
Thanks for that, Sally. I don't want to have to, plug myself there. So I appreciate that immensely. So Greg, have you seen anything with security? Like, have you had to make more calls to security firms and say, hey, they want to beef things up?
I saw some of my clients are, these are a lot of my clients are in that high net worth space where they've been paranoid about people following them for 10 or 20 years now. Like, this is just another game for them to figure out. And, they were all doing the hoarding thing and pulling out tons of cash and burying it who knows where. But really what it's done for us is it's given us, a little bit of an opportunity to demonstrate value to these clients and show them that the kind of behind the scenes things that we've put in place over the years to help keep them secure, be it, moving to Agilink, which is completely cloud-based versus having, servers in your office that are easily hacked. And it's also an opportunity as a firm to move more things and shift that liability, that security liability, to someone else, be it Amazon Web Services or whomever. But that also brings along new struggles when you're, implementing new ways of sending encrypted emails, and clients don't necessarily know how to open them. So things that were once easy are now becoming complicated because you need to send these things encrypted. But a lot of it I don't have as high profile or as sexy of clients, I think, as Sally and Rachel do. So I haven't seen a lot of those issues, but I have been answering questions about what are you guys doing to keep my information safe. And like I said, I feel like with the help of our IT director that we run a really tight ship, and it gives me an opportunity to demonstrate value.
Yeah, I mean, we had to hire a whole IT team that got super deep into everything. And now I have a presentation I give out when people ask us what our security is. And I'm like, don't ask me to explain any of it because I don't understand. It's just
a good idea.
Ex-military guys that, lock down everything, and we can't even access the data without going through them. So that's the new world, is you have to be focused on security, physical, as well as digital for your clients going forward. So I do want to remind the audience that if you have any questions, please put them in the chat and we'll definitely do our best to address them. Matthew has one, which is, where do you guys see the profession of business management headed in 2021 and beyond?
I'll kind of take the beyond part of that. I think that one of the things that's changing in business management and that will continue to change is the automation of a lot of parts of what we do. I think that what I mean by that is that a big foundation of what we do is paying clients' bills and making sure they're paid, and that we have all the data from that to be able to answer important questions about spending and saving and planning and all of the things that we do big picture for our clients. But the foundation of that is knowing every single transaction that touches their life. And I do see a world in the not too distant future where much more of that function is done either automatically or through some function of AI and matching, and that will just free up the staffing to do more of the troubleshooting and concierge type of client interaction that people have business managers for, and that will make us more efficient, because I think we'll have less time spent making sure that the bills are paid properly. I think that even things like being able to identify something that is suspicious, things that are out of a reference range, things like that, I think that those will all be done automated, I think, in the not too distant future.
I agree with that assessment. I think that with the new technology, a lot of the bread and butter of what we do is going to definitely be a little bit more streamlined, but that I also see a trend of just the clients making money in different ways that, were not options a couple years ago. I mean, the fact that we have clients that, make money on social media was not even a thing probably 5 or 10 years ago. And so that's something that I'm looking forward to, having, paying the bills, doing the accounting, doing the tax returns. That's going to be great, be streamlined, use more technology. But now it gives me more time to actually talk to my clients and figure out new ways for them to also manage their money and get paid in different ways, and just kind of build stronger, tighter relationships with them now that we're not focused on, oh my God, I need to do this wire immediately, Yeah.
Yeah, and as a follow-up question to that, Rachel and Sally, you guys deal with these social media influencers, which old fogies like me that are over 40 are just like, wait a minute, you get paid a lot of money to make a 10-second video going like this to some song, and like, what is it like to manage them? Are they vastly different than another typical client, or are they roughly similar?
I mean, for me, most of my clients a lot of them are young, and honestly, I feel like they're so smart. All of my clients are very, very smart, and it's something that baffles me, because when I was their age, I think some of them are like 18, and they're sitting here in a meeting with all these individuals, and they're asking the right questions. They're asking how much money they're going to get back from tours, or if they do this TikTok endorsement, is it going to limit them from endorsing someone else? And I just look at them and I'm amazed at like how interested in their own business they really are. And it's not I don't know if that's the same for you guys, but I feel like I'm amazed by all the things that they're doing, and they're always working. They manage all this technology. Now, I'll be honest, I don't even have a TikTok. I don't know how to use that, but I feel like they could probably show me. They're using this technology in a world where I'm still, I feel like I'm kind of young enough, but I'm still struggling to catch up with all this new technology that's coming out as well.
I absolutely agree. I think they are very young, but they're incredibly entrepreneurial, and they have a plan, and they implement it, and they, to a degree, we probably all worked with young actors or young musicians, and there's a lot of their career projection that's very focused and dedicated to their art and to their creative passion. And that's not to say that our influencer clients aren't similarly artistic or similarly driven by creative decision making, but it's paired, I feel like, with a level of business savvy that is surprising for people their age.
Yeah, and an idea that we had as we were discussing some questions is that the old fogies in business management that created their firms in the 70s and 80s, they've got like groups and networking, and there's the West Side Business Management Group, I think it's called. It's a super sexy title. Also known as the Guidos Group, where they get together. There's something for them, but there really isn't anything for like the next generation, the ones that are starting to deal with the TikTokers, which I don't even really get what TikTok is. I don't need to, but perhaps we should start gathering some of the next generation folks to start their own network and say, hey, we used to work together. Maybe we'll work together again. We're going through some of the same issues. And so Greg said he might be interested in helping to gather that too, to get the young heads together.
Great.
I love it. Yeah.
Make it happen.
Yeah. That sounds great.
So drinks on me if I can come.
Standing invitation, Anthony.
When this is over, I should preface that. So now we have an amazing question, and this is one that we actually discussed as might occur, or that we might bring up in the panel question. So it's, do you guys foresee a continued consolidation of small to medium business management firms into national financial service alliances like Focus is gobbling up a lot? If so, what will be the impact on the industry? And I know you guys have opinions, so
Greg, do you want to start first?
Yes, I'm happy to. I think that what we're seeing now, and I'm too young. I wasn't around for the first time that this happened, but I know that this is kind of a cyclical thing that happens in the industry, is that, these other CPA firms and, folks like financial, get fat, they need to deploy capital. And this is just a way of diversifying their book and maybe getting into industries that they're not, I think people take for granted what we do sometimes, and kind of that soft touch that's required to run these things, run these firms, and it's a people-driven business. But I do not foresee this. I think that the pace will slow down a little bit. I think the big benefit for these Focus Financial and things like that is achieving economies of scale by sharing overhead. And as we move through COVID times, we're going to see everyone trying to reduce overhead and, cut rent being that big overhead cost. And as the money gets younger, we're going to see people that don't care what zip code your office is in. They don't care how nice your offices are. So I think it's going to level the playing field a lot. The barriers of entry won't be as significant because we can all get a Microsoft 365 account. We can all go out and get software licenses and operate off the cloud. So I see this as being an equalizer, and I think those firms that have gone out and gobbled up little firms are going to have some trouble here in the next couple of years.
Sully, what do you think?
Yeah, I completely agree. I think a lot with the overhead. I feel like for me, now that everything's very virtual, I'm actually considering if I need to downscale my office. Before COVID, I was thinking, okay, I need to expand. And now I'm like, well, if my team is actually going to be virtual at this point in time, maybe instead of getting a bigger office, which is something that, you know, was a consideration before, now I should be using that money towards getting them Postmates every week, or, you know, other types of things that can benefit them while they're working from home. As far as like, I think actually during COVID, a lot of boutique firms did really well because we didn't need to lay off anybody. In fact, we were actually hiring people during COVID, and it's just, we had the infrastructure, since we didn't have to manage so many people, to keep like our culture in place, to keep our workflow in place, and not really have to have many changes to the way we were working already. So.
Yeah, well, we've run out of time, but this has been an absolute pleasure. I can't wait to get together with all of you guys, either virtually or in person, in the near future. But thanks for allowing me to participate in this, and thank you guys for being a part of it.
Thanks, Anthony.
Thanks so much, Anthony.
Thank you all. That was awesome. I think perfect kickoff to the day. I think that last question was fantastic to kind of wrap it up on that. All right. Thank you, guys. I will introduce the next panel. Thank you all for joining us again.
Thank you.
Thank you.